Hello everyone, welcome back. Here I'm going to explain you what kind of frameworks are we going to develop. From the time I have announced this batch, I have got multiple queries on what kind of framework are we going to develop. And I do understand that it's a very valid question as it is one of the most asked question in interviews and also you need frameworks to work with Selenium. The USP of this course is the framework which we are going to develop. So, what is a framework? Frameworks is the standard of developing code followed in the organization. A good Selenium framework must have following capabilities. It must have data-driven capability. It must have automated and concise reporting, logging features, screenshot of failure scenarios, easy to integrate with CI/CD tools, reusable and readable code, and must be easy to maintain. So this is the framework which we are going to develop, and it's an industry standard framework. A lot of organizations these days are working on a similar kind of framework. There can be some changes, but most of the features are similar. This is something which I also developed in one of my organization when I was working on. So I have taken most of the inspiration of this framework from there. So here you can see that our framework also have a data-driven capability. What does data-driven capability means? That means testing your application with multiple test data. Say for example, you want to test login feature of your website with multiple test data to check the different combinations of username and password. In that case, what we do is we create multiple test data and put them into an Excel sheet. You can put them into an Excel sheet or into a text file or into a properties file, or you can also use database for that. That does not matter, but the important point is that your application must be capable of testing with those multiple test data. So we are going to write scripts in such a way that this framework or the Synapse scripts which are written will read those multiple test data and perform operation on it. And based on different data types, it gives you a different result. Right. So this is what data-driven testing means, and also will be one important point in our frameworks. Then next to that is a good framework must have automated and concise reporting, right? So here also you can see this framework also do support an interactive reports. So the tool which we are going to use for reports is Extend Report. It's a latest tool in the market which is very much capable of generating good looking and useful reports. Okay, then uh, your framework must have logging features. So a good framework must have a very good logging mechanism where it must log each and every activity. Where it is helpful for the QAs to debug the code later in case of failure scenarios or to debug any unexpected behavior during the execution of the code. That's where logs are used. So you can see our framework also have logging features. There are many logging frameworks available in market which are very famous, like one of them is Log4j. The one which we are going to use is again Extend Report. Extend Report also provides us capabilities of generating reports, and those logs will also be available in the same reports which we have created here. Then the next very important section for us is taking screenshots of failure scenario. It also helps you in debugging your failure scenarios. By looking at the screenshot, you will get to know what exactly is happening on the website, right? So this is where it helps you to take the screenshots. In this way, it can help you in your frameworks. Then I also mentioned that our framework must be easy to integrate with CI/CD tools. So what is CI/CD tool? CI stands for continuous integration and CD stands for continuous development. So I'm not going deep into CI/CD now. That is also a part of our curriculum. In the later sessions, we'll also talk about what is CI, what is CD. One part of CD, that is continuous development, is running automation test cases. So here I have integrated one of the CI/CD tool known as Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is also a scheduler build, so you can schedule the execution of your framework at a particular time. So that capability is also there. Then one more point was that your code must be reusable, readable, and easy to maintain. So for that is the heart of this framework. So if you look at this, I have divided my complete code into multiple layers. I call them automation layer, logic layer, test layer, and test suite. Automation layer is the one where we are going to write all the Selenium related code. So here you can see, here I've mentioned Selenium. Here we will be taking care of all the object oriented concepts. So first of all, we'll be creating certain contracts, that is the interfaces, and then we'll be implementing those contracts. And the idea behind such a development is that, let's say later on, if you want to move your code from Selenium to some other automation testing tool, then you can easily do that. For that, you just have to remove this implementation layer and introduce a new one. So that's where this framework will help you. Then the next layer is the logic layer, where you'll be writing your application, the code of your application or the logic of your application. Again, this layer I have created separately so that same framework can be used for multiple applications. And here we will be following certain design patterns. One of the design pattern which I follow is page factory, which is integral part of this framework. And here also I mentioned that a good framework must have reusable and readable code. So this design pattern will help you in making your code reusable and readable. That we will learn once we'll talk about design patterns. Then next to it is test layer. All the logic which we'll be writing here for the application will be converting them into test cases and test layer. The testing tool which we are going to use here is testng. Then the next layer above it is test suite layer. So all the execution of these test layer will be done through XML files. It's a feature of testng where you can execute your code through XML files, and you can create different type of XML files like sanity, only running sanity scenarios, or only running feature of a particular type, or running smoke test, or running regression tests, and so on. So the main point of this framework is that each layer of this framework is like a plug in and plug out. So if let's say you don't want Selenium, just plug out this implementation part, introduce something different. Then if you want to use the same framework for some other application, you just have to pull out this layer and introduce a new one. If let's say you don't want to work with testng, you want to work with some other tool, you can use, maybe you want to work with JUnit, then only this layer will change, right? Then if let's say you also want to include BDD framework to your project, that is also something which is possible. So there, if you're using BDD with testng, then only the top layer will change. If you're using BDD with JUnit, then the first two layers will change. So that's the level of flexibility this framework provides you. Also, if you observe, I have introduced multiple utilities. At each layer level, there is some utility available. Like at test layer, there is some test utilities. At logic layer, there is application level utilities. And at automation layer, we have automation utilities. I can give you certain examples. Like for automation utilities, we have something known as wait utils, right? At application level, you can have utilities like selecting date from calendar. At test utility, one of the biggest example or one of the best example is reading from this Excel sheet, or writing one of the utility which helps you in giving the code in form of multiple test data. So that is one utility which we'll be going to write in the test. And the one of the feature which we are going to use for that is there is something known as data driven. Sorry, there is something known as data provider. We're going to use that. So that's the framework which we are going to develop. I hope you have got certain idea what kind of framework we are going to develop, and we'll discuss each and every point in detail in the upcoming sessions. So thank you so much for joining this session. I hope you got some idea that what kind of framework we are going to develop, and also this builds a trust that why should you invest in this in this course. This is the reason I recommend everyone to join this batch. Thank you so much. See you in the next session. Bye bye.